So we're going to really talk a bit about trends before we get into the specific consumer influences that are driving window covering products and sales, and for that matter, design products and services. Trends really are important. A lot of times people think of them as sort of, oh, it's nice to know, but it really doesn't apply to my business. I always love this quote from Tommy Smythe, who happens to be a designer in California, the idea that to me trendy is not a dirty word. If I'm not aware of those trends, I'm not doing my job well. No matter whether the economy is good or not, consumers are still purchasing. They're still moving through their life cycles. They're downsizing. Their kids are going away to college. They're retiring. They're getting a new job. They're moving. All of those things affect their home decor purchases. So trends are important. They also can mean business for us because really the lifeblood of interior design and home decor is all about discovery and change. Styles and colors, if they didn't change, they would really, what would they need us for? Consumers are always looking for something new, and when they find something new, they're also willing to pay for it. And so trends do have value from a business sense also. Trends drive sales. Obviously, trends don't emerge on the 1st of January and stop on the 31st of December, so trends are constantly evolving, and we're talking about currents here, particularly when we're talking about consumer trends. So trends are worth knowing and knowing how to apply them, because really the importance of all trends are the fact that you know how to apply them to your business. It's also worthy to note that all trends don't apply to all consumers. So it's also about, as I said, it's about watching trends, applying them, and then being hands-on and innovating. I often tell the story when I talk about trends of a conversation I had with the Target buyers, and as most of you know, Target really has been a leader when we talk about design and design democracy and transparency, and they actually take 10% of their open to buy and pull that aside just to do trend products and services. And it does not affect their salary or their margins or their open to buy. It's basically Target management is saying to you, take this money and take a risk and think out of the box. Apply what you're learning about trends into your products and services. And it's definitely proved beneficial and successful for them. So it's something to look at in your business. What you put into your product mix that's trendy is not necessarily going to be your best seller, but it will drive your best sellers. For many businesses, especially for those of us in the creative fields, it's important to stay on top of consumer trends because really it's the key to being relevant over time. We don't want to embrace fads or short-lived goals. We want to really focus on the big picture and give our customers a steady and consistent message that kind of evolves over time. It changes with what's happening in technology. It's about adding customer service and products to stay relevant. But it always comes back to the customer or the consumer. When we look ahead to predict interior design trends, we usually try to answer two questions first off. It's one, who are your clients going to be in 10 years out or 8 years out in 2023 or 2025? And then once you know who those, or think you know who those clients might be, what types of products and services are they going to need and want from you? Again, staying relevant and evolving. Our ideal client when it comes to design products and services are typically called early adapters, or sometimes they're called active consumers, and what that means is A stands for ahead in adoption. They're early adapters. They're connected socially and electronically. They're travelers, so they have some global mindsets. They're information hungry. They're very vocal. They let you know how they feel and what they want and what they don't want. They're exposed to all kinds of media influences. Obviously, they probably have more formal education. They're higher up in the socioeconomic status. There's more social interaction and more experience with other cultures, etc. So we really want to key in on this early adopter and maybe some of this early majority when we're defining who our client is in our market. So who is that client? Well, the people that we're selling to right now, our products and services, is typically female. 93% of our customers are female. They're educated. They're living in dual income households. They're typically making over $100,000 a year. 86% of our clients are, by the way, and almost half of our clients are making over $200,000 a year. We're finding that our clients are in their peak earning years, basically ranging between 35 and 54, and the rest of our clients are, almost a quarter of our clients are over the age of 55. So our current client demographics have a lot of parallels with who we are as an industry. We're getting older, so are our clients. We're moving out of our peak incoming years, so are our clients. We're both educated, and we're both what we would call early adopters. So what that really means is our market is shrinking. Not only is the industry shrinking, but the market that we're selling to is shrinking. So right now, our clients represent basically two of the three broad segments of the U.S. consumer population, the baby boomers and the Gen Xers. The Holy Grail, and you've probably seen a lot out there about it recently. Actually, Deloitte Touche just did an amazing survey on it, is in that if you want to be in business in the next 5 years, you have to figure out how to get to the millennial. The millennial client is definitely who we're trying to strive to sell our products and services to. With that said, the rules have really changed. There's a much larger need for creative expression amongst our consumers. There's a bigger thirst for fresh and unique and surprising products and services, along with the need for a stable foundation, whether in home. Some of that is a reinvention of that whole cocooning trend that we saw in the 90s. And then there's definitely a desire to edit our lives and to lighten up. There are changing views. There's several, and these are all being driven, by the way, by the millennials and their demographic and psychographic. So there's changing views about money. You've maybe all heard the term showrooming and web rooming. That's where you can walk into any store right now and bring out your smartphone, scan the UPC on products and services, and find out where it's the cheapest, where you can buy it, whether it's online or in a bricks and mortar store. So the way we view money and price is changing dramatically. And for those of us as designers that always say, oh, you know, I lost the sale because of price, or, you know, she didn't like the price, or it was too much, or it was out of her budget, you really need to take a step back and look at what the reason was. Typically, the design client defaults to the price. That might be why they're telling you that, but it might not be the real reason that they didn't buy from you. So we really need to reinvestigate that whole sort of idea of, you know, my price is too high, and having to feel like we have to sell commodity or design as a commodity. There's changing views on the economy or on the environment. It's about sustainable production and ethical concerns. They're definitely on the front of mind of millennials more than ever. This is a trend that will probably grow. What surveys tell us right now is that yes, our customers are saying that they want to be more eco-friendly and more ethical and more socially responsible, but they don't act upon it in buying products and services. But what we're seeing is the millennial will. So we have to really, again, think about our business models when it comes to green and eco and the environment, and socially both to be socially responsible. This is huge. This one is huge. You know, the American dream has always been about buying the home, and for those of us that are working in interior design and home decor, it's about selling products and services to the American dream. It's about adding to that American dream. Well, ownership has changed. buying a home is no longer considered that American dream or that status symbol, particularly with the millennials. They don't want to own a home. They've seen their families get into foreclosures and short sales and be upended on their so-called, owed to the bank because of the homes. It's about, the appeal is really obvious in a lot of different ways. Traditional ownership really sort of implies this sort of certain level of responsibility and cost and commitment. And consumers are really looking for convenience and about collecting as many experiences as they can. So the whole leasing lifestyle and fractional ownership is very appealing. Why buy a car, have to pay a car payment, maybe have to pay $150 a month for a parking spot in the urban environment? Oh, by the way, you've got to have your brakes fixed, or you've got to have your oil changed, and not to mention what the insurance is every month on this, when I can go out and rent a zip car for $10 an hour, drive it to Whole Foods or the Home Depot, take care of what I need on my errands, and return it. The whole idea of owning not only a home, also, it's in some ways it's too expensive. You've got the mortgage, the rent, the maintenance. I don't want to have to deal with that. I want to go on vacation. I don't have to worry about it when I'm there. So brands, meaning you as window covering professionals and design pros, need to really respond with a whole new kind of strategy, and it's really time to figure out how and where your customer is finding those ownership fixes. If it's not the home, what is it? There's a whole trend out there called rent by choice. Luxury rentals now that because nobody wants, or not, I shouldn't say nobody, but there's a move away from home ownership. There's also a changing view on status. It's really about where is your client getting those status fixes. It's not necessarily the product or the price. It's not the Louis Vuitton bag. It's not the Rolex watch anymore. The millennial and young affluent are starting to recognize and respect others that are straying off that beaten path, and they're creating new types of status, whether it's in acquiring new skills or generosity or eco-credentials or connectivity. There's just a lot of different types of status. It's not about, again, the TV scenario. It's about storytelling. It's about planet stewardship. It's about cultural leadership and aesthetics in design. So who is that new design client really? Well, we know they have a fast-paced life. They like products and companies that deliver solutions to them. They're looking to home improvement retailers, both bricks and mortars, and the TV channels for inspiration. But probably key here is, as we talk further on about these and narrow it down into these three trends, is what we call the paradox of choice. And that really comes from being bombarded with too many options. The paradox of choice means that I have so many options, 1,000 different wines, 100 different varieties of pasta. I've decided not to decide. And you might have seen this in your clients and in their wavering and their inability to make decisions because you're bringing them too many choices. Key here is, as a strategy, is you need to start packaging your services, and you need to start narrowing down, editing, and curating your products and services. We know that she wants value and good design, and that she doesn't necessarily completely understand what custom is. She's pretty good about knowing whether or not it looks good or not, but she doesn't really understand the process and what's involved and what custom means. And as an industry, we have not done a good job of educating her about this. She's getting that information from the restoration hardwares, from the Pottery Barns, from the West Elms, and from the IKEAs. We have given up this opportunity to educate our customer about custom and the luxury of craftsmanship. She's web savvy, we all know that. Design and tech, it goes without saying. If you don't have an online presence right now, she doesn't even know how to find you, no matter what demographic she's falling in, because we're finding that almost 86% of clients that are out there searching for home decor products and services are doing it online first. So if you don't have a presence, she doesn't even know that you exist. They're definitely mobile. It's all about mobility. It's going to be even huge in 2015, followed by video, which all leads to the fact that what she really wants is an experience. She doesn't want to buy a product. She doesn't care about the future features and benefits anymore. It's about the unexpected becoming ordinary, and it's about the fact that the process of discovery and then telling the story of discovery to your family and friends is in some cases more important than the product itself. So designers need to be storytellers, curators, and editors. Consumers are also more attuned to the intangibles, the unique. They value the unique. Now, when I talk about experience, I also want you to know there are 4 realms of experience. It's really more participatory and educational and escapist than it is customer service. I'm not referring to the fact that you send a thank you note out, or that you keep her posted and, do all these little customer service things. That's expected. That just goes without saying. That's baseline. It's how do you create value through an experience. There are several, but there are 3 consumer currents that are really impacting design today, and we're going to talk about those 3 in this webinar. The first one is made in the USA. Second is personalization, and then the third is artisanal or craftsmanship, which is really moving almost toward peaking in the trend cycle. When we trend spot, we typically require certain overlapping levels of influence. The first thing we look at is long-term. What are the possible consumer evolutions that are happening out there culturally, lifestyle, and technical, and with technology? Then we look at the midterm, which is about 5 years out, which is about socio-cultural developments. Then we look at the short term. Those are, what's happening with pop culture, contemporary trendsetters, individuals, processes, groups, events, and things. So, for example, when we were looking at long-term, we were already 3-5 years ago talking about digital printing and trying to move manufacturers into digital printing and 3D printing. And as you know, 3D printing has exploded in the design industry in the last year to 18 months, and it's going to get even bigger and affect how we provide products and services. So that's just an example. What we usually refer to as trends, meaning we as an industry, are really usually a composite of various factors and influences and consumer behaviors. It's all about what does a consumer value, what does she desire, and then how is she behaving to get what she desires and to emulate those values. So there's a lot of shifting, but the style trends, which is what we're most familiar with, color palettes and upholstery trends and fabric trends and window covering trends and drapery hardware trends, are nothing more than that visual interpretation of a core consumer behavior. So again, the 3 that we're going to talk about, made in the USA, personalization, and artisanal, are consumer behaviors that are translating into products and services that we'll be selling to our clients. So let's first talk about personalization. This is a great quote. It's about the fact that true personalization of customer experience will stop being reserved for a select few and will need to become an operational principle for anyone who wants to remain relevant. It's about recognizing that the consumer wants to be recognized as an individual with unique needs that we give them unique solutions to. And guys, that's right up our alley. That's, solving solutions uniquely on the window or in home decor to meet those unique needs of our clients. But what this means is we have to really start drilling down and defining who that customer is, who that ideal customer is. It's no longer just about demographics. It has to include psychographics, and you have to really dig deep. Who is your client? Just because she bought from you doesn't mean that she is your client or even your ideal client. So we need to, we have some work ahead of us as professionals. 86% of consumers in a recent survey said that personalization influenced what they purchased to some extent. And of that 86%, a clear almost quarter, 25%, said that personalization significantly influenced what they purchased. So this is key. Whether you're shopping online or offline, whether the clients opted in for your promotional emails, whatever it is, we're finding that clients are open and welcome to relevant product recommendations and any kind of messaging they might be getting, and they're also willing to share that information with you. So it is the attitude and the expectations of what a personalized shopping experience is all about is definitely moving forward. And it basically started with Amazon and the online shopping experience with Amazon, where it said, you know, if you like this, you might like that. And now it's really gotten and become full-blown. Customization is the key. For many consumers, a personalized customer experience can mean a world of difference. Though they might be keen in on popular trends and products, it's really about creating recommendation tools and e-commerce personalization specifically to drive your products and services. A great example is Facebook and the hyper-personalized online profiles that are out there for Facebook and House, and the increasing role that they play through social media. And one of the specifics is all about photo sharing, is the whole idea that visual images are so much more important than the written word right now. So it's not just about the internet. It's not the only sphere where custom reigns king. Home decor is a perfect example of increasingly personal consumer experiences where creativity is seen as a hallmark of taste. Whether it's DIY projects or whether it's your own products, they're purposely designed to resemble homemade crafts, and that whole sort of artisanal look, which we'll talk about later, has become huge. You know, Etsy is hugely popular, and now, by the way, now as design professionals and workrooms, you can now have stores on Etsy. They've taken it one step further. So personalization and customization is key, right up our alley. Millennials love customization. Part of the reason is they have a really high level of self-awareness and they're focused, and they understand their place in the world, what it means and what it means to them. So they're keen on really customizing everything. So it's huge. You now want to make sure that you position your brand in the coming year to reflect this. When it comes specifically to window covering products and services, one thing I've noted, and I'm actually going to be doing a blog post on this week, is that there's a lot of new entrance into our marketplace window coverings from other industries or from other design niches, where they're starting to offer what they call in-house, bespoke, custom couture services that are tailor-made to the client's recommendation. You get to make your own choices of headings and fabrics and styles and finishes and all those kinds of things. We kind of take it for granted if we've been working in this space for years. There's the people that are entering into our space are giving it a much fresher look and a fresh perspective. So be aware of this. You're going to see some interesting things coming out from what you might not consider a likely competitor. So why is this? Well, one of the reasons is that experience economy I talked about. You know, it's about customers don't need to buy window coverings all the time. They have to, we have to, as professionals, make them want to buy window coverings. It's like, how do we get stuff on the window? There's definitely a shift in expectations. benchmark that has been, raised, the bar, if you will. They expect a certain level of customer service, and they want to receive it, and if they don't, whether it's online or bricks and mortar or shop at home, they're not happy. And again, Amazon's a perfect example. Traditional retail business models are just really dissolving because of what Amazon.com has done to the experience and the customer service model in retail. They just expect it. We find that consumers are more likely to be a repeat customer if we provide them with targeted personalization and personalized offers. 86% of consumers in the recent Right Now Customer Impact Report said they would pay up to 25% more for a better customer service. So again, guys, it doesn't come down to price. Maybe part of the issue is that we're not providing them with the experience they want, so they don't feel they need to pay for it. And it has nothing to do with the product. The other thing is you'll find that not only does this drive pricing and pricing strategies and move your business to that high-end next level, as we all kind of, that buzzword we like to use, but it also creates brand loyalty within your brand. And then last, the other reason is big data. There is so much data out there because of the technology, and it's so accessible that now that you have all this wealth of customer-related knowledge, you've got to start using it. And it's just expected. If you already know where I live and what I do, and that I'm eating a pizza at 4 o'clock at Gino's Pizza, and wherever it is, you need to use that data and create that personalized experience. So again, the goal is to add experience value in every aspect of doing business as a design professional. You need to build connections with customers that make the cost of the product less important, and that create a new set of intangibles for purchasing your products and services. Again, it's all about telling the story. Don't tell me why I should buy it. Tell me a story about it. Products are on more than one century level. The experience economy really has pushed the boundaries. We want to see it, we want to feel it, we want to smell it, we want to experience it. So again, the idea of product features and benefits to make a sale, oh, this has a steel headrail and it has this kind of cord or what, this kind of lining, sometimes that doesn't fit into the design thinking consumer society. Here's some great examples. This is Birchbox. So Birchbox sends out sample beauty and hygiene products to your home, and they're all suited to your specific skin type and your personal style, and that was all created from a questionnaire that you filled out at the time that you entered into the subscription model. Why it works is that the business model offers personalization while maintaining an element of surprise. You don't know what you're going to get. I get to open a box. Whoa, it's like Christmas. So hyper-personalization can sometimes be too much of a commitment, but if you get a one-time questionnaire to fill it out, and then you use that data and make your customers feel unique. And I don't know if any of you have seen the new Target ad, but now Target is doing subscription services for their basic commodity products. So you basically fill out a form and say, I need you to deliver laundry detergent once every 6 weeks or once every 3 weeks, and I need this and I need that. You fill out a questionnaire, and they will automatically, on a yearly subscription plan, ship you what you need right to your door next day. They recognize how important subscription models are to our business. Warby Parker, there's great success in that whole sort of idea of the home try-on model. Sometimes choosing a pair of glasses in 20 minutes in the clinic is kind of stressful. Did I make the right decision? But being able to bring the process into the home, allowing you to get feedback from friends and, take the time in the decision process makes it much easier, because glasses are inherently personalized, and so Warby Parker has made that process easier. Does that sound familiar? We do shop at home. How can we make that process personal and simple for our clients? more personalization models. I mean, can a brand ever customize or personalize enough? It's not about just picking a color and a pattern. Hyper-personalization is the name of the game. For example, at the top you have Kunstbuzz. This is a art poster company that prints canvas posters in 3 different sizes, and the user's images are made out of their tweets. And then Cottage is a French skincare company where it lets you, again, choose the ingredients and concentrations in a variety of their products so that you basically are making your own beauty product or fragrances. How cool is that? So personalization is, in a way, nothing more than niching a category and giving it a fancy name. But, you know, hey, go with it, run with it. It really does, though, in some ways speak to something that's bigger than that. It's really about the balance of power between the consumer and us as we start realigning ourselves thanks to the internet, thanks to design transparency and mobility. Because it allows consumers to shop their beliefs and their desires and find products that will meet those needs and bring them closer to where they want to be. So because the millennial is the next great wave of consumer power, and they're pretty well known for their fickle taste and the aversion to bigger brands, you want to make sure that you engage the millennial, that you customize, and you make the brand, you make them part of your brand somehow. They're about smaller brands and personalization in their own DNA, if you will. Again, one of the things that we're finding out is when you really push customization and personalization, that when we did Bain did a survey recently of 1,000 shoppers and found that while less than 10% really have tried customization options, 30% of them are interested in doing it. And while it's hard to gauge really what the overall potential of moving into customization and personalization is, here's a figure that will probably blow your mind. If only 25% of online sales of shoes were customized, that would equate to a new market of over $2 billion a year. So it's about recognizing the opportunity, recognizing the scope and size of the opportunity, and then figuring out how you can engage with those clients. So there are 5 rules as a design professional. First thing, know what you want. Before you start testing the waters, you got to be clear about, what you want to get out of this. Is it new markets? Is it brand loyalty? Is it, new revenue streams? What is it? When you start pursuing that whole sort of personalization and customization trend, you want to make sure that you're building a core business around that offering. Second, know how much you want to really offer. Some brands, maybe allow consumers to design unique products that are built to order with a range of features that can be added. That's what custom designed suits and fashion apparel and jackets and the Nike shoe is doing. Other companies succeed in only offering minor customization options. And a perfect example is Serena and Lily. If you're not familiar with Serena and Lily, they are a bedding and soft furnishings company, and they have an online store that allows you to what they call customer choice bundling, which allows you to basically make your own bedding combinations. So the process feels personal, but it's not actual customization. They're buying existing products. They're just getting to make different choices, and then it's all bundled together and packaged really pretty for the customer. I think that that's a really great strategy when it comes to design products in our niche. It's about making it simple, because sometimes there can be a risk to it. You can't be convoluted. You have to make sure that the customer starts and they're not just staring at the so-called blank canvas, and that goes back to the paradox of choice. You can't give them too many options, so maybe where you start is limiting those options and bundling and packaging your services. Let them share, let them talk about them. Will be your brand ambassadors, particularly the millennial. And then make it an experience. Don't disappoint. Engage, engage, engage. Second trend, made in the USA. So Made in America isn't the song anymore, whether out of a sense of patriotism or a desire to help the American economy or the belief that U.S. made products are higher quality. Consumers in every product category are increasingly want to see a sticker that says Made in the USA. And retailers and manufacturers are responding by starting to what we're calling, instead of outsourcing, insourcing. Walmart just announced that they plan to buy an additional $50 billion of American-made products over the next 10 years. General Electric is starting to move some of its production back into the United States. So times have changed, even as the old, remember the 80s and the phrase Buy American and the whole Chrysler aspect of Made in the USA, even though that label became scarce for a while due to offshore manufacturing, it is now acquiring this sort of vintage chic cachet, and it's really signifying old school craftsmanship and luxury. So it's kind of gone around. Now, who's driving this trend? In all product categories, the bloggers are. They have sort of become the early adopters. You know, it's gone through a sort of a rebranding of sorts, and was kind of led by the hipsters in Brooklyn and North Carolina, and some of the design entrepreneurs and urban creatives that have gone into, you know, old factories and lofts and warehouses and started creating product. And where it's taking us is this sort of Americana chic has gone mainstream, and where you really see it is the fact that in fashion right now, Americana was huge in spring and summer 14, and it's going to be even bigger. So again, watch for that Made in the USA label. Maybe this is a whole theme and a whole private label curated collection that you as a pro can put together. This happens to be a game, a block set called Patriot Games, and it's a Made in America brand. And Boston Consulting Group found out that 63% of Americans would pay more for this wooden toy. It's a hand-carved set of blocks, and it's made by Uncle Goose in Grand Rapids, Michigan. 63% of the Americans said they'd pay more for it because it was made in America and handcrafted. So again, that whole Made in America brand that once said, you know, straight-laced, patriotism, ruggedness, is really being fueled by a renewed enthusiasm for sourcing local products and production in the U.S., and it's being advocated by lots of different groups. Another statistic from the same Boston Consulting Group survey found that 80% of consumers are willing to pay a premium for products made in the U.S. That have a high quality image. When you extend this globally, the survey found that 60% of Chinese consumers were willing to pay extra for American-made goods. So isn't that really interesting? So that whole sort of outsourcing in China movement is now being flipped on its side, if you will. This whole sort of Made in America movement is really being motivated in a lot of ways by the fact that it's creating jobs. And if I might, you know, Orion is proud of the fact that they're fabricating all of their custom hardware in America and creating jobs, and consider themselves makers. And we'll talk more about what a maker is when we get into artisanals, the last trend. Google can't, defy Google. Google Trends just recently posted that people that are seeking American-made products online due to searches Made in America or Made in the USA went up, as you look at from where it was in 2005 to where it is almost to 100%. It peaked in 2012, but it's still peaking. So we're seeing that it's basically at 90, 80, between 80 and 90%. for those that are buying products. And that, again, that 83% of people say they pay attention to whether a product is labeled Made in the USA. Another reason for growing the Made in the USA trend is that 42% of the Americans feel that buying American-made product gives you a higher quality product. Really interesting. They also believe that it's 80% of the respondents believe that it'll support the economy, because they understand that, you know, whether it might be your brother or your uncle or your sister, somebody who has been out of a job or is out of a job, that every little bit of a, you know, helps, and that becomes a strategic purchase. What does the other question that comes into play with this Made in the USA trend is what really defines Made in the USA because of the global nature of the supply chain. And so what's kind of coming out of this is a definition by the Federal Trade Commission, and then certification and marks, if you will, or maker's marks that define Made in the USA. So the FTC defines it as a product's final assembly or processing must take place in the USA to carry that distinction. You can bring in imported parts, but you need to assemble it here. Again, it's important to all of us because of that whole sort of patriotism, the idea of quality, the idea of pride, and it also leads to the whole idea that there's reshoring and insourcing happening because we have the skill sets and the employment force that has, you know, skill sets to allow us to do certain manufacturing operations that we've moved offshore, and now we can't find, all we have is unskilled workers. Now we need to move back into skilled work sets. Why now? I think this is key, because we've dealt with the whole China and the container and everything being purchased when textiles overseas and manufactured overseas. And this particular statistic and quote comes from the Boston Consulting Group, and they're basically saying the reason is we're coming to a tipping point. In 2015, the gap between the cost of manufacturing something in China and delivering it to the U.S. versus the cost to manufacture it in the United States will be less than 10%. So you can't use the fact that you need to manufacture overseas anymore in a year from now because it's going to be cheaper. More and more manufacturers are going to look at that 10% and say, wait, maybe we need to bring business back home. One aspect of this American made, and it kind of really fits into the whole like 4th of July and the whole 4th of July holiday coming up. Some of you are probably getting ready to leave for that holiday tomorrow, and who's really driving it is Martha Stewart. Say what you will about her, she's a marketing maven, and she really puts her money where her mouth is, and I love the fact that in 2012 she created American Made. It's still going strong today. As you can see, nominations are open until from June to August, and I'm very proud to say that Orion has entered into the American Made Martha Stewart Awards. If you're not familiar with it, what it really does is it spotlights makers and it supports the local and celebrates the handmade. So it's a program that's made up of people, communities, and companies that have turned their passion for craftsmanship into well-designed goods and a way of life. And so they believe that Martha believes there's a shift in culture, as I've been talking about, where creative entrepreneurs are really starting to define the economy, whether it's through sharing or personalization or craftsmanship. And she's helping drive that with the American Made Awards, which is really cool. As I mentioned, that with the Made in the USA trend, another thing that's happening is certification and labeling of products. And here's one of the Made in the USA standards and products. And there's certain certification standards that you have to go through and benchmarks. And, you know, it really comes down to companies like this, which is Homer McLaughlin and Fiesta Ware. And, you know, for over 100 years, they've been out there doing Fiesta ware, and if any of you are familiar, you know that there's a huge collector base out there for this kind of product that's still being made, which is really awesome, I think. Last but not least, these all sort of start to connect together and create this artisanal trend. The artisan economy, or the artisanal trend, is really about local, authentic, and sustainable. It's hotter than hot, and it's coming from urban, not rural environments. It's visible in all these new small-scale companies that are focusing on local craftsmanship. We're becoming more and more demanding as consumers for local products. We want them produced in a sustainable way, caring for the environment. So that's where the whole, idea of local, authentic, and sustainable comes, whether we're talking about chocolate, jeans, or drapery hardware and window coverings. It really started coming into focus in a trend that forecast from 2008, and they really feel that it grew out of not only the recession that was coming, but the whole sort of globalization and computerizing of society, where certain crafts were being lost. We're familiar with that. If you're a workroom that's on this call today, you know how hard it is to find somebody who knows how to sew, or the art of slipcovers is being lost. In some cases, trim manufacturers and embroidery manufacturers and all those techniques are being lost as people close factories or as they die. It's really kind of sad, and I love that this is, we're seeing this revival and this interest in it. From not only a consumer behavior, but to, as many trend forecasters have done, it's really a stylistic interpretation of artisan craft, whether it's industrial chic, natural looks, handcrafted, whatever it might be. Probably the best case study is West Elm. They made a commitment that by next year, 2015, they will be committed to pay $35 million directly to artisans who use their handcrafted techniques. So they're buying from 20 artisan groups in 15 countries, and this is one of the infographics that they put out in their press releases. And you're probably familiar if you know their ads. It's talking about, what they love and discover, how we discovered this artisan, and this is where we create, and here are handcrafted one-of-a-kind finds and pieces that are being created. So they really are at the forefront of this. Restoration Hardware is doing the same thing with their artisanal series of furniture. Or it might be, this is one of my favorites, Talking Iron and Orion Iron Art. This is a gal in Wisconsin, and she's a blacksmith, and she makes cast iron fry pans, and they're all made she did all 50 states. So you can buy a cast iron pan in the shape of the state you live in, or for a gift. I just love that concept. This is what they look like all put together. Or it's, even drawing from inspiration when you're working with a client. Here's this bookshelf that's made out of, piping and this whole sort of industrial chic that's a home trend right now, translated into, a French pole and drapery hardware. So how do you capitalize on these three trends? I'm going to finish up by talking about several ways that you can, as a design professional, capitalize on the trends. Well, I mentioned this, technology is driving all of these trends. So you definitely need to start creating some sort of online reputation and community, whether it's through social media platforms or design directories or mobile or e-commerce. And then also, with an eye to the future, video is the next frontier. So get that YouTube channel. But millennials particularly have a penchant for sharing, and they love to engage in, sharing and video and mobile. So you want to start creating products and services that you sell where they can co-create and engage into those brands, whether it's house or Pinterest business pages or a porch or room reveal. Look at how you can start engaging with millennials. Curate. I mentioned this in personalization and with the paradox of choice. I believe that one aspect of design is moving from being, totally birthing the process more toward a collaborative and curative aspect when it comes to design products and services. So it's thinking about how you can find the best of the best and curate it and put it into your own private label or signature products and collections. First of all, you can't be shopped. Second of all, it's totally on trend in what your consumers want. And third, it makes you more efficient and proficient. And to do that, look at how it's being done by some of the flash on sale sites and or the style bloggers. I mean, every blogger's got their own collection these days, it seems. So, we need to draw a lesson from them. What about making your own design magazine? There are so many free online, whether it's Blurb or you can do Shutterfly in a book or Paperly or photo board. There's all kinds of ways for free that you can create your own videos and or your own design magazine. Think about that. By the way, if those of you that aren't familiar, Google the Design Network. The Design Network is allowing designers now to create their own video channels and their own design shows. Explore new sales channels. How can you capitalize on fractional ownership? How can you engage in collaboration with other pros and your peers? Think digital. Organization and storage, huge right now. Leverage the idea of small and intimate. Sell your process. If you're a workroom, maybe you allow your designers to bring their clients in to actually see the master seamstresses and artisans that are making those custom drapes. And there's lots of different ways and strategies. The niche will set you free. Find new narrow client segments within your own design service business. What services are related to what you're offering now? How can you co-market and collaborate? So think technology, function, and emotion. What are those opportunities? Whether it's awards, whether it's new niches, motorization, whatever it might be. Think about the luxury of craftsmanship and sell it. Isn't that what we're all about? And talking about the process and tracking that design process and documenting it for your client as an experience or a memory. Are you doing, not just before and after pictures? We all know everybody loves those, but do you document the process and give her a book on the project that's sort of her own, cocktail table book of her project? I just love the whole idea of tracking it and tracing it and telling the story behind it. I think this could be huge as a way of differentiating yourself. Custom DIY. Let's not lament about the DIYers. Let's embrace them. How can we learn from them? Here's a Vermont workshop where you're literally paying to build your own table. So what about, sew your own decorative pillows. Take your client to the workroom. Come and help somebody upholster your sofa. Or make the slipcover. Whatever it is, how can you create custom DIY? Alabama Chainin, who's in Alabama, came out of the fashion industry and actually located in Alabama because that's where they were knitting t-shirt jerseys for Sears in the 70s, and the manufacturing facility went out. But she has actually custom DIY kits with little guides or studio weekends. We do it with CHF Academy with our peers. Why not do that with customers? I love the idea of putting kits together, for decorative pillows or simple valances and selling it as a kit. You don't have to sew it. You don't have to labor. It could be very, very intriguing. And then talking about the process, I always thought that it would be really cool if our design products and services had tags on them where you could actually do a QR code or a radio frequency code that attached the story to it. So instead of just looking at a blind in a showroom or in a hand sample and saying this is it and telling the features and stories, I want to know the story behind it. Who designed it? Who made it? there's lots of ways that we can make that much more appealing than to talk about, the energy efficiency of 3/4 inch cells, etc., or, powder coating excuse me, or powder coating a drapery rod. So that's that. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'm going to see if you have any questions now, and we'll call up, please type them in. And in the meantime, I've got some drawings. Sorry, got to get back to it to go. And the first drawing is for a designer bag, and we're going to, the Orion designer bag gives you 6 finial samples, your bag, and all the catalogs and brochures and price lists. So you can certainly be well on your way to a personalized experience and an artisanal experience with this designer bag when you take it into the home. So let me see, who's going to win this drawing? I'm letting the behind-the-scenes gal pull a name out of the hat. And the winner is Regina Lynch. Congratulations, Regina. Will you please, in your box, put in your email address and your contact information so we know how to get this out to you. Next up, our final drawing is for the brand new finish selector binder. It has all the finishes and chips within the sales binder, which is really easy peasy to sell finishes and all the finishes. And that winner is Mark Schultz. Congratulations, Mark. Will you also put your name in the question box so that we can get this shipped out to you? Any other questions, comments? Oh, the name and address of the Wisconsin cast skillets, I know. She's actually in the Madison area, Mary, and she's on my list to actually visit someday because I think it's a really cool story. I will get that to you afterwards. I think, if not, you can probably go on AmericanMade.com, which is Martha Stewart's, and you can see all the past winners. For those of you that might have been at IWCE Vision last year and maybe have met Troy. Troy is one of the only women distillers in the United States, and she distills bourbon, and she won Martha Stewart's American Maids Awards in 2013. And she also has a really interesting story that encapsulates women, entrepreneurship, being in a man's industry, which is bourbon. She also has a great story. Great. Oh, no more questions. Thanks all for coming, and watch your inbox after the 4th of July holiday for July's webinar. And everybody have a wonderful 4th of July.